I know. It's mid-July. A lot of people are still on summer break. I think mostly everyone I know is still on summer break. But why am I about to talk about education? Because honestly, the lack of it is just becoming a little too obvious. And we gotta discuss. We gotta discuss. Welcome to the Simply Jamilah podcast. Hi, hello. My name is Jamilah. I okay. I sound way more low energy than I actually am. I'm just tired, but I'm forcing my body to get adjusted again to just like waking up earlier, which this summer I haven't woken up past 7 a.m. But for some reason, the difference between waking up at 7 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. is starting to smack me a little bit. Because I am switching to an elementary school and it starts earlier in the day, I have to wake up earlier. And once upon a time, I was waking up at 5:15, like no problem. But I believe when I started like dreading my job, I started waking up later, and then I just got used to it. So we have to get back used to waking up earlier so we're not late to our job. That is a random tangent that nobody asked for. Hi, it has been a minute. I did not intend on not recording a podcast episode last week, but my mental health was bad. She's not great right now, but like she was way worse last week. This week we're at least like functioning a little bit more. Last week we were doing everything that we could to function, and there's still hard moments and hard days, but it kind of hit me. I don't want to say out of nowhere necessarily. I definitely think July the 4th or the 4th of July, or there's really no other way to say the 4th day of July. That day, and it's not because of anything with like not being proud to be an American or none of that. It literally just like so happens to be that day is when things kind of started to hit the fan as far as my mental health goes, and I've just honestly been on a slow incline ever since, just trying to like dig my way out of the hole. But I'm better now. And I was like, okay, let's record. Let's talk. I just said a lot of words for literally no reason. I would say let's get into our weekly wins right now, because that's kind of when I try to like put good news out into the world in the face of bad. But honestly, and it's not because of the state of life I'm in. I just literally, I feel like I can't talk about any sort of win, any sort of victory when an ICE agent literally shot a man my age in Maine less than a week after another ICE agent killed someone in Houston, Texas. I can't pretend that there's not bad happening, because what do you mean? There is no weekly win, so we're just going to kind of get straight into what this episode is all about. If you know me in my personal life, you know what LHS means. You know me, okay? But I'm going to share it for those who don't know. LHS is the initials of my high school. So the HS is the high school. And that's why I said we're talking about education. Because the more I hear like North Carolinians discuss like their high school experience, like as far as graduating from here and just kind of what they've gone through, the more grateful I am for graduating from my high school, like mine specifically, and then also just graduating in 2017. Because even though at the time, obviously living through it, like high school was not, it was high school. But I will say, considering my like kind of upbringing and childhood, high school and school in general was like an escape for me. So it genuinely wasn't like the worst thing ever, but it was still high school. Next year is our like 10-year anniversary as far as my graduating class goes. And we haven't even hit the 10-year mark. And I'm sitting here looking back like I'm so grateful. So I wanted to kind of just talk about that and what was so great about my education that I received from my high school. My family has like moved away from the area where I went to high school to like different areas in Tennessee. So I don't know if like, things have changed. My brother just graduated from high school. I don't know what his education experience was like. And then, things just kind of altered and changed after 2020. So I'm not 100% sure like what is new, what has changed. And then, of course, what I'm learning with being in North Carolina, and I've only ever lived in 2 states, is that the way each state, values education or does education or whatever the case may be, it's always different. So I can only speak on really what I have witnessed being a teacher in North Carolina, and then what I experienced going to high school in Tennessee. But I will say, if other schools are modeled or going the way, same vibe, wavelength, whatever that we did when I went to high school in Tennessee, then I think that's awesome, because I feel like low key it's what the North Carolinians need. Even though I keep talking about North Carolina, this episode wasn't inspired by North Carolina at all, or like anything that I saw working at a high school. This episode was actually inspired by, I don't know if y'all remember seeing this on the internet, but it like sent me to high heaven. It was inspired by people telling authors to use easier words in their books. Because again, that lack of education, a little too obvious. Absolutely not. If you can scroll on TikTok, or I don't know, look at pictures of you and your ex, then you can take a few seconds to Google a word and learn something new, educate yourself, and be able to put what you've learned into whatever sentence you're reading in the book, so that way you fully understand what you're reading. When I saw where people were asking authors to use easier words, I got so mad, because that's giving into the laziness. That's giving into the same mentality of the people who like use AI. I'm sorry, not really, if you rely on AI for literally everything, but I can't. I literally can't. But I feel like the people who like solely rely on it as like their second brain, and if they're not using AI, then they're using TikTok as a form of Google, like those are the people who are saying like, hey, I really want to read this book, or just even if they're listening to an audiobook and they want simpler words, like, no, I need you to take a moment to like, I don't know, tap back into 2000, I guess, and go use Google. Or you know what, let's make it harder, go find a dictionary. Go find a dictionary and look the word up. It was so aggravating, and I genuinely, I mean, it died down a little bit, this discourse. Now, I will say I'm on book threads on the Threads app, and sometimes randomly people will say something about like there being a word too hard in a book. Babe, go look it up. There's literally no problem with continuing education outside of, school. It won't hurt you. Cool. You graduated from high school and you aren't going to college. You're taking the vocational route, whatever the case may be. Congratulations. I'm happy for you. That does not mean that you stop learning. Oh, you graduated from 8th grade and it's summer break. You have to turn your brain off. No, you don't have to turn your brain off. You can enjoy summer break and still have little moments where you just learn a little bit and learn things that are actually useful to the real world. When I saw all this, when it initially happened, and I saw everything about people asking authors to use easier words, I immediately thought about, and my people who went to high school with me know, I immediately thought about word wall words. If you know, you freaking know. Oh my goodness. Because word wall words, they're vocabulary words. I don't remember why specifically they were called word wall words, but this was like a school-wide thing, if not county-wide, but definitely school-wide. And I remember we had different quizzes, we had to use them in sentences, like all these other things. And now that I like am an adult, I use word wall words so much. I'm not gonna hold you. Amalgamation, eat it up. Juxtaposition, oh, we're eating her up. Absolutely. Conglomerate, listen, I love word wall words. Now, in high school, I used to be so irritated by them because I felt like it was taking away from like class time, and I didn't really understand the value of them, but now I freaking do. And I hope that Tennessee maybe is continuing with like the importance of vocabulary words. I hope that other states are, expressing the importance of vocabulary words. There is this thing here in North Carolina called Avid, And avid classes definitely put like a big stress on vocabulary words, but some subjects and classes just simply don't. It's so bad. So I literally know and have seen people who rely on videos to teach their classes. Like, babe. It's cool if you're a visual learner, but I just feel like there needs to be some sort of structure. And I do believe that Word Wall Words provided structure. And now that I am an adult and I do love reading, and I also just like writing, and I like sounding halfway decent in conversation. Sometimes, I mean, you've heard it here on the podcast, I mess up my words all the time. And sometimes in the moment when I'm recording, I think what I'm saying makes grammatical sense. And then I will go back and edit. And I'm like, you're missing a whole word in that sentence. Like, I'm not perfect, but I am able to have a decent conversation because I know, more than easy words. And honestly, I can't speak Spanish. Great. But because of my Spanish class that I took for 2 years, I can like kind of understand it. And I am working on furthering my education when it comes to learning a second language. But I have decided, for the sake of my actual sanity, I think I'm going to fully start teaching myself Spanish again next fall, just because we are about to enter the school season with like me getting my master's, and I'm taking 6 classes total. So I'm taking 3 classes this fall and then 3 classes in the spring. Yes, I dropped the restaurant as a job, but I am adding on a day with the after school program and then, still working a full-time job. And I have my cute little side hustles that I'm doing. So there's just a lot. So learning Spanish is kind of like, she's going to have to wait until the workload for my master's program lightens up, which will be fall of next year. And if all works out, Lord willing, I'm praying it all works out, that is when I should be graduating. Anyway, let's bring it back just a little bit. So I am going to talk about just like my high school and what I liked about it, although I'm going to be speaking like strictly academically because I was literally nothing socially, like nothing. My name's Jamilah. I've said that already, but there was actually 2 other Jamilahs that went to school with me. One moved away, but was still a part of conversations, which I thought was, you know what? You go, girl. You go, popularity. And then another one, she did just like graduate with us. She actually had a twin. And it was funny because I will never forget the day that on the announcements, they called my first and last name, but they said her twin's first name as my first name. As in, they said Jamal instead of Jamilah. Like, I would never forget that day because I went to my chemistry class and my chemistry teacher called me Jamal. It was like a joke. It was fun. I absolutely love her. I hope she's doing great. Honestly, she was like my favorite redhead. And honestly, to this day, she's still my favorite redhead. I've met quite a few and she's top tier. I'm not going to say her name, but I think about her sometimes. She's awesome. I was following her on like Instagram at one point, but I've deleted and created so many Instagram accounts since then. We've lost each other in the sauce, but I do hope she's doing great. Socially, we're not talking about that. I mean, and I had friends, and I still have a friend from high school that I actively talk to and hang out with when we're in the same state and all of that jazz. So it wasn't like the worst experience. I just wasn't popular. And unfortunately, I did go to school with my cousin and he was popular. So there were certain moments when people would be like, trying to figure out why he's talking to me, and baby, we're talking about like a cookout that's planned or something. Like we're talking about, I don't know, something related to our family. I will never forget, there was this girl that had a crush on him and we were in a class together, and she used to hate me because she thought that I was flirting with my cousin. No. Never in my life. Absolutely not. We're family. And he chose the most inopportune times to either remind me that we're family or to just like ask questions, or I would have to like save him sometimes for him getting in trouble with things. Like, it was just, yeah. So socially, I wasn't popular on my own accord, but a lot of people kind of knew who I was in a general sense because I was related to him. Like I said, strictly academic. Although, before I get into what I liked academically about my high school that I think other, schools and things should kind of model after, and I'm sure there's cons to it, but being where I'm at now, I just see a lot of pros versus the cons. But again, there's probably cons to it. I wanted to say, because we were talking, I went to this I went to an art residency. I wasn't a part of it. Girl, I'm not an artist at all. I just doodle and we keep it pushing. But my friend is an artist, and we went to an art residency. They were showing off like their work and their different things. It was actually super, super cool. I left horribly. Like, I was very awkward when I left, and then I realized I didn't say goodbye to anyone, and I was like saying goodbye as I was walking out the door, grabbing my shoes to leave. Just so bad, and I am fully aware of it, and I did overthink about it for a solid 2 days after it happened. So I went to this art residency in support of my friend, and everyone was kind of talking about their high school experiences because a lot of them went to a high school here in North Carolina. And I learned that they, like, recently, at least the district that I like live in and worked in and everything, they recently stopped requiring uniforms in public schools. That is mind blowing to me. And I remember being in high school and everyone being kind of upset that we had a dress code, but at least we had free will. Like, yes, we had, our shorts, skirts, dresses, they all had to be longer than the longest finger, so often our middle finger. And we couldn't have like we had to have a sleeve basically. And at the time, wearing crop tops was not like all the rage that it was as like it is right now. So like that wasn't really a big thing. Obviously we couldn't have like hoods or hoodies or anything like that. So there was free will, but there was a dress code to it. And I don't know why. And I'm still trying to figure this out because, now the kids don't have to wear uniforms and it's great, but I'm trying to figure out why there's no dress code awareness, if that makes sense. Like, me and a lot of people in my high school were so fully aware of the dress code. Like, we all knew, and we knew that, we looked out for each other. We would be like, hey, if you don't fix this, you're going to get dress coded. And I remember sometimes I'd be standing at my locker, which back in the day, we actually used our lockers. Nobody uses their lockers now, which I think is absolutely insane. But we used, I would stand at my locker, and sometimes I'd get nervous if I wore like a specific dress. I would be so scared that I'd be dress coded, or I'd like, if I saw someone coming, like an adult, I would like pull down my dress a little bit more, because my problem is that I have really long arms and really long legs. Okay. So when this rule about the whole like shorter or like longer than the middle finger thing happened, like I was struggling, bro. Because even if it was past my middle finger, because my legs are long, it still didn't hit my knee. And I'm still built like that. I just have a little bit more meat and fat around the stomach area, but I'm still built like that. I still have a 6'3" wingspan, and I will like put shorts on and I cannot wear them in public because if I bend down, stuff is hanging out that should be hanging out. But my legs are just so long, and it's not like me trying to flex or anything. It's just the way my body is. But it was kind of difficult to maneuver when I was trying to look halfway decent in high school without getting dress coded. And then I think too, what I thought was so interesting is that where I went to school, the alternative school students, those were the ones who had to wear uniforms, and those uniforms were strict, because I remember the alternative school kids got picked up at my high school, and sometimes we would be the first bus. I don't know what. She had to have been on something on the days that we were the first bus there, because we were rarely the first bus there. But when it happened, it was weird, and we were super early, and we were just sitting there. But we would get there so early sometimes that you could see the kids who were waiting for the alternative school bus, and then they would get picked up at the high school. But they had to wear, I want to say it was like a navy blue and khakis, and the shirt had to be tucked in, and like, I don't remember if girls were okay to have weave and like their hair braided and stuff, but I know that like no false nails or anything like that. Like, they were super, super strict when it came to that. And I think it's so interesting that here there is an alternative school, and low-key, I don't know jack about it. That's the dress code part, which again, I'm very appreciative of the fact that we had free will. And I'm honestly appreciative to all of my classmates at the time who just knew to look out for each other so that way nobody got dress coded. So, as far as academics go, and I think this was such a good idea, my freshman year, all freshmen stayed in the same hallway. Like, we were all just in one hallway together. The only times that you really left the hallway were for PE, but the gym was like right there by it, so you weren't going far, or to go to lunch, which was also next to the gym, so you weren't going far. And I don't know, I thought it was smart. It helped with the transition from middle school to high school. Like, we were getting acclimated to the building. People in high school, you often get frustrated with the freshmen because they don't know where they're going. They're super confused. I've seen it here where I work, because here, everyone is all over the place at the high school that I worked at. And so what I liked is that, yes, even though we were in one hallway, we were kind of learning that new skill of having to transition between multiple classes. So once we left our freshman year and had gained that skill, then when it was time for us to go, I hit the mic. Then when it was time for us to go to the other side of the building as sophomores, juniors, or seniors, we understood the concept of like, okay, I got to find my classes and I have 5 minutes to get there. Like, I appreciated that so much. I don't know if everyone else liked or hated that we were all stuck on the same hallway, but I think it really truly made that transition so much easier, because now that I see where that isn't a thing, it's crazy. And I'm not just saying the high school that I worked at. I mean, I worked at a high school before that one. Like, both high schools I've worked at here in North Carolina, there is no like transition opportunity for the freshmen. You kind of just get thrown to the wolves. And I am incredibly grateful that my high school didn't like do that. I don't know if they still do. It's a whole different principle now. And then even though we were all in the same hallway as freshmen, you still had the opportunity to take honors classes. I can't remember if I took all honor. I don't think I took all honors classes, because I know my weakness is science, babe. Me and science do not get along. And I remember fighting for my life in biology. And I don't know why, I can't grasp the concepts, but I can't remember if I was in honors or standard or not. You know what? I still do actually have the opportunity to order my high school transcript. I kind of need it because it has my immunizations attached to it, and I kind of need my immunizations, but I have to like send them a money order and everything, and it just feels like a lot of work. That's the only reason I haven't done it. It's just, it feels like a lot of work. I actually talked about it in my like 27 dresses and lessons video about how to, like, it's possible to do it. I just haven't done it because I'd have to mail them since I'm in a different state. Although I'm wondering, hold on, if I do it next summer, when I hopefully make it back to Tennessee, would I still have to pay? These are the questions. Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else regarding my like freshman year academically. I remember it, but it was also just kind of like I hardly spoke, very much so in survival mode, both inside and outside of school. I do remember my freshman year in the sense that there was a couple times that I had to like go home, because my freshman year of high school is when I started experiencing horrible, atrocious periods. Like, oh, that's when I will never forget throwing up in the bathroom and some girl literally laughing because it was my period, and it was horrible. And I remember that. It was so bad. And I remember there was one time, again, I felt super nauseous because of my period, and I like walked out of class and I took myself to the office and I was like, hey, I need to go home. And then the office was like, where's your teacher think that you are? And I was like, she thinks I'm in the bathroom, but I like left the bathroom and I just came straight here. I do remember that. And it was English. And I remember my English teacher, like visually, I don't remember her name. And I think I don't remember her name because she wasn't the best. She started off the year not being my favorite, but when we got to Romeo and Juliet, I actually really liked her. And To Kill a Mockingbird, we also read that year, and I was okay with her. I don't know why. We had a weird, and she doesn't know about it because it was just me internally, but I had a weird love-hate relationship with my English teacher. The person I absolutely loved, and she was my first period teacher, was my art teacher, my art class, because you do have to have like a fine arts credit, and I loved her so much. Oh my goodness, I love that art class. I still have some of my like prints and tools and things that we like had and used and made. I loved that class. And what I will say, speaking of us having to have a fine arts credit, one thing I appreciate about my freshman year experience specifically. So, and it's the same here as far as like you have to have specific like credit requirements to graduate. But what I like is that the fundamental ones we just got out of the way our freshman year, right? So you have to have a fine arts credit. You have to have, I want to say it's like a year and a half of PE and health and wellness. Like we got all of that out of the way literally our freshman year. And then the other half that you need for like PE as far as health and wellness go, you get that out of the way your sophomore year. There is no mixing grades when it comes to that unless you like previously failed, which I was in a class with someone who had failed PE. It was nice that those things were just taken care of. I do believe we had to have 2 fine arts credits though. And the only reason I say that is because I remember taking a dual enrollment music theory class. And that covered another fine arts credit that I had to have. So I do believe we had to have 2, but they ensured that we went ahead and got 1 taken care of our freshman year. So that concept is just so nice because there's kids now that are scrambling and didn't know that they were missing specific credits and that honestly, I mean, it's all over the place. There's so many mixed classes. And I think in a way it's nice to have mixed classes because like, yeah, you can learn from the seniors and but if those seniors like suck, they're not going to do anything and they're going to be annoyed that they're in a class with freshmen. But it's just because they either didn't know that they had to have these credits or they failed previously. It's just honestly a mess. So very grateful that we got the fundamental ones taken care of our freshman year. Now, one of my favorite things, and I want to know the logic behind doing, like for us, you know, you finish a class in a semester, but you're in that class for like 93 minutes, either 78 or 93 minutes, but you're in that class for a long period of time. So I want to know the logic behind that because this is how it was when I was in high school and I loved it. I ate it up. We had 8 class periods. And I can't remember, they were either 45 or 48 minutes long. So they were definitely shorter than the 78, 93 minutes. But you had your core classes all year. And I honestly like that because I feel like with them being semesterly, there's such a rush to get all this information in kids' brains. There's more tests. You're shoving everything in without really making sure that there's an understanding with the children. And so even though the actual class periods are shorter, I think having the core classes year long was just so great. But also having shorter class periods works with the attention span of the kids. Sitting in a classroom for 93 minutes and expecting someone to like lock in and pay attention, especially in this digital age, is absolutely insane. I think having shorter class periods, it just helps with the way the shorter attention span is of everyone. But when you have the core classes like year long, then even though there's like, you know, we're working with a shorter attention span, we're still allowing like, you know, we have more time to make sure that they understand the knowledge. And that's really all it comes down to. And when I say core classes, I'm talking about math, English, biology, or social studies. Like I had those all year. Actually, now that I said social studies, I remember taking a world history class with a tall teacher. And I remember him specifically because he ended up becoming an assistant principal. And I remember being like bored and scared of him in his class. And then I became just straight up scared of him when he became an assistant principal. With these 45, 48-minute classes, we still had like a 5-minute transition period, but it also allowed for like longer lunches too. Right now, these kids have 24 minutes exactly for lunch. Like you have 5 minutes to make it to the cafeteria, to stand in line for a long time. And then if you're at the end of the line, you're SOL because at that point you have 8 minutes to eat. And oftentimes people, and by people, I mean the students, kind of use their lunch as like extra studying time just to, you know, make sure that they're good academically, help each other out, whatever the case may be. And they can't do that. And then what I find really unfortunate, and another reason that I had to dip, is like they can't, even though it is 24 minutes, you know, and for the kids who do want to study, they can't do it in the cafeteria, or it's easier to not do it in the cafeteria, so they would try to go to the library, but because of rules, for some reason, they couldn't sit in the library and study, do their homework. Or if they did, it was because they hit a specific demographic or liking or whatever of the librarian. I don't know. But I liked having the 48-minute class periods and then having 8 of them because it just allowed for us to have a longer lunch. And there were many times that me and my small group of friends, we were doing homework or reading a book. I mean, often we for sure just like talked a lot, but we helped each other out because we often had the same classes. And so it's kind of like if I had a class before my friend, she'd be like, hey, how'd this go? And vice versa. So it was just super nice to have the time to do that and to also ensure that every kid makes it through the freaking lunch line. Something else that I find kind of like different, I don't remember how we did it specifically. And if you went to high school with me, you can definitely correct me on this, but I never met with my counselor to sign up for classes. The school that I just came from, they had to meet with their counselors to sign up for classes, and like some they had to get signed off and blah, blah, blah. We didn't have to do that. I don't remember how exactly we signed up for classes. I just remember doing it because I hardly ever met with my counselor. Like, I truly hardly knew her. I honestly knew her. Like, when I met with her, she called me into her office to talk about like senior year stuff. And I saw her face and I was like, oh my goodness, I know you. Why do I know her? Not from school, because she was a frequent visitor at one of the churches I was forced to go to in my childhood. Not the one that my grandparents, like, are in charge of and run, but like another one that I went to with like my mom and like her husband at the time. So I like recognized her from that, but not from, school. I low-key don't even, I think honestly, if I remember correctly, because again, I hardly saw my counselor, but I'm pretty sure my counselor changed somewhere in my high school journey, because I think I started off the year with a different, like my year as in like my freshman year, I think I started with like a different person. And then when I got called to my counselor for my senior year conversation, I was like, oh, you're like a completely different woman. But like, again, hardly ever met with them. I didn't have to meet with them to sign up for classes. I do have a distinct memory of my counselor, and I'll never forget this, because this is when I honestly learned my first lesson of like, just because they look like you doesn't mean they're like rooting for you. Because she was a Black woman. And so we were talking about, just like how I'm graduating, being in the top 10%, all this other jazz. And I was like, okay, great. And at this point, there's a lot of valedictorian, salutatorian conversation trying to figure out who it's going to be. And I knew what a valedictorian was from literally 4th grade. And because it was one of our like spelling words. So I remember it from that. And so it's always been something that just kind of sat in the back of my mind. And then we have the senior meeting and this conversation, and I'm like, I think I might be okay to be valedictorian. And I remember her looking me in my eyes and telling me that I wouldn't be valedictorian. And I remember crying, not because I didn't get it, but because I really thought that this Black woman was going to help me, a fellow Black girl, try to make it. Like, I thought, in my head, we're always rooting for each other. And that was kind of my first lesson. And like, no, no, because I literally asked her, I was like, is there like any way that I could, change that or whatever the case may be? And it was like February, March of my senior year, and she was like, no, like you don't qualify, you're lacking. It was something where I didn't have enough honors classes. Mind you, I took dual enrollment, so I guess I didn't have enough honors classes, and she said I wasn't involved enough and I didn't play a sport, so therefore I would be valedictorian. If you know me, I was. I did in fact be valedictorian, and I wish that I had the opportunity to kind of tell her off in my speech in a very professional and subtle way, but we had to kind of get our speeches approved before we could say them at graduation, so I didn't even bother. Classes, one of the craziest things to me that like it just truly blows my mind here is that the kids have to pay for driver's ed. That blows my mind, because, and unless it's changed, and I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong on this, because I remember being in a class with a bunch of people who had already taken their permit test, but they had to take driver's ed to graduate. So in Tennessee, it was kind of a requirement, where I went to school at least. It was a requirement to graduate. So we didn't have to pay for anything. Now, we had to pay for our food and stuff when we went to like Sonic or Wendy's or whatever, but we also lived next to all these places. So duh, you had to pay for it. I said lived. Well, I mean, I guess we did live there, but we also like went to school by all these places. Like I remember my freshman year, actually speaking of that art class, I remember we had to go over like our emergency plan in case, there is, an active pew pew situation and you like run, hide, or fight. And if we ran, I remember my art teacher being like, the closest building that you run to is Wendy's. I do remember that. And sometimes when I go back and visit, I'll drive down the specific highway that has, all of the things, and I'll look and that Wendy's is still there by the high school. And I think it's just so hilarious. But anywho, so we did have to take driver's ed, and we would often go to that Wendy's. I think one time I took my teacher to like go run an errand or something, but it was like a requirement to graduate. Here, I want to say that this past year it was like $60 for the kids to take the class, and it was after school. Absolutely not. I'm so grateful that I did not have to do that. Again, nothing but gratitude here. And then just like my class, there were so many classes that were offered. I genuinely, and this is very bad of me, but again, never really met with my counselor, so like don't yell at me. I have no idea if we offered AP classes because I kind of just skipped AP and went straight to dual enrollment. And we had a lot of dual enrollment classes offered. And what I really liked about our dual enrollment classes is that some of the teachers, like they were like within the building, like in school, and some of them, they were out of school. We did dual enrollment at the time. We did dual enrollment with two different like local colleges. And so one of them, you had to like actually go off campus for a couple of your classes. I remember my friend doing this because she always came in like later in the day. And if something happened, because she got her license and all that jazz before me, she would like kind of shoot a text, like if somebody wanted something in the little group chat that we had. I remember this. Some of our teachers, like I said, were in school. So like I honestly like that. I took, music theory, like I said, and he was in school. He came to the school. That class was so rough. I have no idea how I passed. Like legitimately, I could not tell you how I passed that class. I remember it. I remember distinctly. I remember consistently falling asleep or trying really hard not to. I'm not going to hold you, but I was happy because it took care of a fine arts credit for the high school and a fine arts credit for college. So I was like, great, double whammy. For a while, I did not think I was going to pass. I don't know how I passed. He was so boring. He was genuinely just like so boring. I don't know how I did it, but I'm happy that I did it. And like my biology class, so I took biology my freshman year. I took chemistry my sophomore year with the redhead, who I love. And I don't just love her, but I don't know what is happening in the chemistry classes here in North Carolina that the kids are actively fighting for their lives. I ate chemistry up. I loved chemistry class. And I remember taking it as a sophomore and being in there with a bunch of juniors because there were other sciences that you could take. But for some reason, my mind was just like, what comes after B? C. Therefore, what comes after biology? Chemistry. Don't ask. The logic, she's the frontal lobe is here. Okay, guys. She's made it because at that time, I don't know what we were doing. But I'm so grateful. And I honestly think that I liked my chemistry class because I had a really great teacher. I think I low-key had like 103 in that class. And then I needed a third science credit. And this is when they had offered like dual enrollment with another school. This is actually the day that they gave us all this information is when they called me by Jamal. Never forget it. Never forget it. But anyway, so one of the classes that was offered was biology. And I was like, because I'm just so not good at science, I was like, if I can just get the science credit for high school and college out of the way, let me do it. So what did my very interestingly, I don't know where her brain cells are, self do? I took biology again. They said it counted as like that, even though I had already taken it as a high school kid, it counted as my second high school or my third science high school credit, and then it counted for college as well. So I took biology again. For me, and I think with my friend, something had changed. I can't remember, but I remember something changing between our junior year and our senior year with like how they did science. Because I want to say that was the class that she had to completely be off campus for, I think. But I remember like our junior year, I think we were both in the building, and then I don't remember if she went with us on Saturdays or not, but once a month, every Saturday, we had to go to the actual university that our biology teacher was like associated with, and we had to do like a lab there. I do remember that. I also remember, I don't remember what the fundraiser was. I don't remember what it was, but we had to collect like pennies. And I had this biology class first thing in the morning. So, girl, you already know I was fighting for my life. And I remember this fundraiser, we had to collect pennies, and she was like super competitive. And so there were days where she like sat there and motivated us to collect pennies. So that way it was something that we could win. And at first we were like, whatever with the incentive. But then she was like, I will remove your lowest test grade if you bring in pennies. And the way everybody locked in so hard for us to win because that class was a challenge. I locked in. I know I did. And we ended up winning, which was fantastic. People got the lowest test grades dropped. And I honestly think that's the only way that I even passed that class, is because me and biology, we were not friends. But I was grateful that, that class was taught and offered. I also, like, forever in a day, I still have it. Honestly, if I wasn't gonna like crack every bone in my body standing up right now because I've sat here for so long, I would get up and get it. I still have my papers from my English class. My senior year, they had dual enrollment English, and I took that, and I like truly the greatest teacher ever. We're friends on Facebook. One of the like best. And I don't remember what the exact prompt was for the essay, but I did my essay on 10 Things I Hate About You, which is my favorite movie ever. And she wrote so many different notes on it. And I got an A. There was another paper that I did for that class. I actually am feeling nostalgic right now. And after I'm done recording, I'm going to go read them because I loved the papers that we got to do. And I liked the class mostly. Now, it was hard at points because I think this might be the class where we had Beowulf in, and that was tricky. But then we also like read 1984, and I mean, the subject matter of that book is a little like hard, but it made me like, I don't know, everything was so interesting, minus Beowulf and Macbeth. Those were not interesting at all. Did not like them. 12 out of, no, like I was gonna say 12 out of 10. 12 out of 10, do not recommend. Was not fun. But besides those two books that we read, I honestly really enjoyed that class. My junior year, was it my junior or sophomore year, that we had a teacher and something happened where she suddenly wasn't our teacher anymore. Turns out she got arrested in a whole different state, wasn't using her legal name. Like, there was a lot of drama with that. And we had like, it was something weird where we just like had a different teacher for a while, then they hired somebody new, and then we like switched classrooms. It was something crazy. Sophomore and junior year English, I don't remember much of it. I remember like reading The Great Gatsby, and I remember at some point having this like giant white man as a teacher, and he spit every time he spoke. Like rain shower spit, and he sweat so bad. Sometimes he was sweating so atrociously the room smelled bad. I do remember that. But I can't remember if that was sophomore or junior year. Like, those 2 years when it comes to English are a blur, especially after Homegirl basically disappeared. Like, that was one of the craziest, weirdest experiences ever. I remember the fake name that she used. I don't remember what her real name was when somebody found the newspaper article showcasing her arrest. That was crazy. Actually, speaking of arrest, let's talk about some of the elective classes. Sorry. Let's talk about some of the elective classes that I took. I took personal finance. What does that have to do with arrest? She wasn't arrested when I had her as a teacher, but she eventually got arrested. And was she even a teacher? No. Now, did I learn how to braid hair in that class? Absolutely. But did I learn anything that was actually of value in terms of personal finance? Heck no. Heck no. What's that bald guy with the glasses and the like short beard? I don't remember his name, but he's like everywhere talking about like saving money when he was like super poor, and that I don't remember. But she made us like watch his videos, and we had to do his workbook pages. She only made you kind of work on that stuff if you didn't like partake in her conversations about like makeup and hair and nail polish and, the whole braiding hair and how do you curl your hair and da-da. Like, she was obsessed with that stuff. And it was rough. And I remember sitting in the back And it was me, and it was this guy that I was developing a crush on that I actually almost dated until he like showed his whole ass one day. I'm just going to be straight up, and was an absolute jerk to somebody who didn't deserve it. That's when I immediately stopped liking him. And I actually just straight up stopped talking to him. I was like, no. I was the original ghoster, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I sat in the back with him, and there was like another person. I don't remember if it was a guy or girl, but we all just kind of sat in the back and like did the best that we could to teach ourselves. But could I tell you anything that I learned regarding personal finance? No, that's why I'm in debt. Hello. I don't remember jack. Another elective class that I took was current events, and that was really interesting. With the elective classes, they were only a semester long, but you still had to have a specific number of elective classes taken to graduate. And I remember taking current events, and I remember the teacher who taught it because he taught me US, or was it world? He taught me either, I want to say it's world. It was either US or world geography, but he taught me that in middle school. And then all of a sudden he's like in my high school teaching current events. And it was like crazy to me. I'm sure he's retired by now, but I remember having him, and it was really cool because in that class, we always had like the vocabulary word of like analyze and analysis, but I really, even though I, could match the word to the definition and all these other things, that was one of those words I distinctly remember just like never getting a good grade on as far as using it in a sentence, because I didn't understand it conceptually. But I learned how to analyze, and that whole practice, I learned that in my current events class with the different articles that we had, and I genuinely appreciate that class for that. What I don't appreciate that class for is all of the like true crime videos that we watched. It scared me. There's some of them that if I'm on specific like country back roads or whatever here where I live, I will have war flashbacks to one of the true crime videos that we watched and be like, I will think that something's about to come out and get me. I refuse to be in the country at dark. Like it's been almost 10 years and I'm still messed up so bad from that class. Also, we watched Dr. Pimple Popper a lot towards the end of the semester, and I hated that. Hated everything about that. But what I didn't hate, what I absolutely loved, was my ACT prep class. I forever and a day. Oh my goodness. I will always, 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 always be grateful that we had ACT prep as an elective. Why will I be so grateful? Because recently, and I'm pretty sure I've said this before in a podcast episode, maybe not, but recently, the kids take the ACT every year, and we had to get the ACT this year. And it was to I call them like my kids because I taught them when they were freshmen and they were juniors this past school year. And I'm like, hey guys, you're taking the ACT. They had no idea what that was. No idea what that was. They had no idea how to prepare for it. None of it. I did everything that I could to try to help them. But the fact that they had no idea and they just knew that they had to show up one day and take a test is insane. I am so grateful that we had ACT prep. That's honestly where I learned a large portion of my vocabulary words. And I want to say the word wall words were also to prep us for when we took the ACT. I feel like that was kind of part of the logic with us having those vocabulary words. But oh my goodness, I remember the woman who taught the ACT prep class too, because I remember her telling us for some reason, she told us one day that her parents still paid her phone bill, and she was 46 or something at the time. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember that so distinctly. But now that I'm an adult and I'm seeing how little the kids here are prepared for the ACT, I'm grateful. Let's see, other classes that I took your standard, I had to take US history. And I remember taking out with a really short, tiny woman. She was great. She was hilarious. She had a dry sense of humor. No one laughed, but I would sit in the front row of her class and I was always laughing. I loved it. I took dual enrollment. I did take a dual enrollment math class. I want to say it was dual enrollment. Was it pre-cal and trig or algebra and trig? I don't think it was pre-cal. It definitely wasn't pre-cal. It was trigonometry and something else, but it was dual enrollment, and I loved that class. The guy who taught it, I think he was near retirement when he taught us, so I doubt he's there anymore, but he was so cool. He was a nice little Jewish man, and sometimes he spit too. He did spit too. But also sometimes people just like gave him such a hard time, and I always felt bad because like, why are you being such an asshole? Sorry, but I'm not sorry, because like, why were they like that? I remember some days he just like sit at his desk in utter defeat, and I hated it, absolutely hated it, because he was a great math teacher. I love math, period, but I loved math in his class. Actually, speaking of me loving math, period, I had the same math teacher for geometry and algebra 2. Oh my goodness. Loved it. I cannot tell you for the life of me who taught me algebra. Like one, I don't know why I cannot remember that person like at all, but I know exactly why I had for geometry and algebra 2. I had him 2 years in a row. My little Star Wars loving king. Everyone just really liked him. And I hated too when people gave him a hard time, because there were some days that he would just get so mad and it would scare me, because he rarely lost his temper or just like rarely got upset. But people were just so rude that it happened, and I felt bad every single time, because I remember, was it my sophomore year that I think he was my first block teacher, or my first period teacher for geometry. I remember that so distinctly. That's crazy. So first period freshman year was art, sophomore year it was geometry, junior year it was biology, the dual enrollment one, and then my senior year my first period was Bible. That was tough. That was tough. Not because it's the Bible. I've read it 3 times. It was tough because I don't know what he is now, but he was definitely a Republican then. And he was fighting for his life. He was trying really hard not to bring both political views and like religious views into the class. Like, it was tough for him. It was tough for us. Also, for some reason, I don't remember why he said that I also had to know, because there was more guys in that class than girls. And for some reason, he said that girls also needed to know how to tie a tie. But I remember we ended the year, like last day, if not second to last day of class, everyone had to learn how to tie a tie. Do I remember? Absolutely not. I could not tell you at all, because the way that I have seen people tie a tie is different from the way that he taught us. And so I just simply do not remember. I remember how to tighten it. I just don't remember how to get the loop around. I guess I should practice. He gave us ties to like take home and practice. And I remember because I had a giant teddy bear that I put the tie on, and I felt so proud of myself because I was like, ooh, I still know how to tie a tie. That was my freshman year of college though, when I did that. Do not remember anything about how to do that now. For him to take Bible as a class, to even offer it, it had to be taught from a strictly like objective standpoint. And because he is or was a Christian, he was struggling really hard to not bring like his beliefs and his interpretations of it into the class. It had to be taught strictly like, this is the text. It was hard to do, and I commend him for even trying, but it was also hard to just be in the class because he was also trying hard not to compare it to society at the time. But in order for him to like do that, he would have to bring in his political beliefs, which was Republican, and that's where it was just like, okay, stop. just stop. Also, I will never forget the day I saw him wreck his car at Starbucks, because I was at Starbucks just getting a drink, and then I walked outside and his car was like smashed, and I was like, ooh. The last thing that I appreciated and I liked, as far as my high school experience goes academically, is the career pathways. So we have like career pathways here in North Carolina. They're CTE, but not in the football sense. It's career and technical education. And here there are definitely so many more. I mean, I freaking was able to get here because they offered interior design as one, which I thought was like super dope. And, you know, food nutrition, actually they cut in our district. So no, but like culinary and all these different things. What I liked though in my high school, in your career like classes count as like a core class. So I had to take it like year long every year, starting with my sophomore year though. And so you pick your career path sophomore year, and then that's what you're in until your senior year. And I really, really liked that because I was able to do all 3 levels of my career class It says career pathway. And I say that, so my career pathway, we didn't offer as many as they offer here. We had like cosmetology, which I'm shocked that they don't offer here with the amount of girls who like do their own hair. It's kind of crazy. I feel like we should offer that. But we had like cosmetology. I remember criminal justice. Oh, what's the farm one? It's not farm, but it's something. They did some because there was like a little greenhouse and everything. Oh, I don't remember what it's called specifically, but they had that one. I chose marketing, and I loved my marketing teacher. Oh, amazing. I think I had her all 3 years. Like, she was awesome. And I took yearbook, or I was like the editor in chief. I took yearbook, but I was like editor in chief of yearbook as well. My senior year, and I had her then too. So I had her twice a year, which is absolutely crazy. Wow. That was probably my favorite year. Senior year was like my favorite simply because the classes were just amazing and the teachers were just awesome, and I miss it. And I don't miss it in the sense like, oh, take me back to high school, but I miss it in the sense that that level of education, and honestly just like that level of care that those teachers had, I wish that it was here. These kids need it more than anything. But anyway, I like the fact that you chose your career pathway sophomore year, and then that was it. Here, they never make it to level 3 of a class. Like, if I were to stick it out with teaching, I would never teach the 3rd level of interior design here. So like, there's interior design fundamentals, interior design studio, and then interior design technology. I would never make it to the technology level, because they don't let you make it to the 3rd level, and because you don't make it to the 3rd level, they don't care enough to even give you the resources to teach that 3rd level class. And it's not just me who's experiencing it, it's literally every CTE class and subject offered. There's something here with my district specifically where you have to have at least 2 years of one CTE subject. So for example, if you take culinary 1, then you take culinary 2 and you've reached that credit, but then you can also take like an Adobe class, or you can take like a computer science class, but you have to have at least 2 years of one subject matter. I think that's cool in the sense that, yeah, you can take other classes and you can explore other career pathways, but also I just liked the fact that I was able to have a career pathway and then have that for all 3 years. And honestly, I think because I did that, granted, it has barely been a decade. It hasn't even really been a decade. So we'll see what happens 20 years from now. But because I stuck with that specific career subject for so long, I remember a lot of what I learned in my marketing classes. I could tell you about the 4Ps right now. A business plan, I actually know what that is and how to write one. Still, to this day, off the dome, I still know that. So I think it's because I just stayed with the same group of people. I had a lot of the same kids in my class all 3 years, and the same teacher, same subject matter. Like, it really does make a difference when you allow kids to stay in a subject for a long period of time as opposed to just rushing them through something. And it also makes a difference when you try to teach as opposed to when you don't. Super long spiel about just what I did educationally and just appreciate it educationally as far as my high school goes. And I don't know if it's still the same, but I know that made a really big difference in just the way that I operate academically and educationally now as opposed to other people. And if we can go back to that, if things have changed, and because we all know we're in a literacy crisis, okay? But I feel like if we, have some sort of, I don't know. I don't want to say if we go back, but there's a way to help. There's a way to help people's education in all senses of the word. And I don't know, I feel like there needs to be a little bit more effort, and the structure that I had in high school it really did make the most amazing difference in how I operate now, how I remember things now. What I do know is, even though I've been here for a while, talking for a long time, which I did not anticipate talking this long about high school, so that's kind of crazy, but because I haven't talked to you in a couple weeks, I have been consuming some things, so I really would like to discuss. First thing I watched recently, I've completed a couple of shows. I did watch and finish season 3 of Survival of the Thickest, which the ending was rushed. I don't want to talk about it. Instead, we'll talk about what I really, really didn't like comparatively, which is Elle, the prequel to Legally Blonde. It was so boring. Low-key, it was just boring. And I feel like, I don't know. I didn't anticipate the plot going the way that it did. I just it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Let's just say that. I knew it was going to obviously be the prequel. I knew it was going to take place in the 90s. Like I had all these expectations when it came to that, and I think they did good really making it look like it was in the 90s. Like they did a really good job with that as far as like technology and like outfits and all that jazz. Like that was great, but I think just the actual plot was like why? I mean, if it gets renewed for a season 2, I probably won't watch it, to be honest. And that's it. Something else I watched recently. I've watched a lot recently as far as like movies goes. I watched Superman. I watched Project Hail Mary. But what I want to talk about that I watched that has stayed with me and was honestly better than the other two movies was Hamnet. Oh my goodness. Crazy, crazy of my therapist to recommend this for me. But so happy she did because wow, I knew that something about it was powerful enough for Jessie Buckley to sweep every single award, minor and major, at every single award show because of her performance in Hamnet. And I knew something about it was like great, but I couldn't figure out like what. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, I get it. Oh, I get it. Paul Mescal also did really, really good. I mean, whole cast, like, wow. And the cinematography in that movie, the shots, some of them are just so beautiful. Like, I was entranced, bro. I was entranced. It did rip my heart up a little bit, and for that reason, I don't know if I could watch it again, but just my first experience watching it, amazing. I felt the things, and just wow. I really, if you have ever been on like limbo wondering if Hamnet is worth it, I genuinely do recommend watching Hamnet. Something I have been trying for the past couple of weeks is a dietary supplement. Apparently it is Kourtney Kardashian's like Lemme brand. I've been doing the Lemme de-bloat because I thought that I was bloated, and I apparently just really need to lose fat, but that's fine. I've been trying them, and honestly, it hasn't done much. There's actually been some days that it's constipated me a little bit, and which is kind of, that's feels like the opposite of the goal. I feel like that's not what we wanted to do. And yeah, it just really didn't do anything for me, like at all. I mean, I was pooping every morning beforehand, and then I started taking them, and I still pooped every morning. So it just didn't really do what I thought it was going to do. I'm really happy that I bought the trial pack instead of like committing to a full jar, because now I know that I definitely don't want it. And then lastly, just to wrap it up very quickly, the most recent book that I finished is Battle of the Bookstores by Allie Brady. It is a book that I got on a blind date with a book from I think it's literally called The Bookshop in Nashville, Tennessee. Like I got it. I want to say that's the name of the store that me and my friend went to way earlier. Not way earlier, but a couple months ago when I last visited Nashville. I feel like that's the name of it. But I read the book, and it was very much so inspired by You've Got Mail. And I've understand and watched and read things that have been inspired by You've Got Mail. But this one was just so obviously inspired by You've Got Mail that it was just like, you could have twisted up the plot a little bit or like changed something a little bit. I don't know. It was cute. It was an easy read. It's honestly a really, really, really great book for summer if you like summer romances. I will say it felt a little long. Like I think it's over 400 pages, and I was like, okay, like this is like, why? But besides that, it was great. It was good. It's not something I plan on rereading. It's just a cute, easy little summer read. Okay. I have looked up, and it is 11 a.m., meaning I have to be at summer camp by 11:45 because I'm leading a class today. Pray for these children. And also my doctor's office has left a voicemail because I got my blood drawn yet again because we're still trying to figure out how my anemia is. And I think the lab results are in, which don't even get me started on the blood drawing experience, because why did she put the needle in? Was like, there's no blood coming out. Huh? So I'm going to go be an adult and take care of all the things. Thank you so much for listening and or watching this episode of the Simple Jamilah podcast. I'll be in your ear next week with a new one, and I look forward to talking to you then. Bye.